U.S. President Trump recently hosted a White House banquet for leaders of major tech companies, individually asking these CEOs about their investment plans for the U.S. The first to respond, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, announced an investment of $600 billion. The second CEO also pledged $600 billion, and subsequent CEOs made commitments in the hundreds of billions. In total, this was likely the most expensive dinner in human history, with Trump securing trillions of dollars in investments with mere words. However, reviewing Trump's career reveals that the TSMC Arizona factory, promised during his first term, has yet to fulfill its investment and production commitments. Similar to his first term, tech giants pledge large figures and wait out Trump's term over years. Unlike last time, this time his departure is permanent. Thus, they can promise any number without fear of failing to deliver or facing Trump's retaliation. Moreover, Trump does not focus on whether investments materialize. The technology war between the U.S. and China will persist for years and won't conclude during his term, so he only cares about the figures pledged by tycoons to boost his poll numbers. I recall that at the start of his second term, Trump partnered with SoftBank's Masayoshi Son, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella for an unprecedented AI investment project called Stargate. So far, this ambitious project seems to have made little progress. Perhaps the Japanese were cunning, deceiving Trump again, or perhaps the Indian CEO was shrewd, unwilling to pour Microsoft's money into this black hole. Of course, Sam Altman, the traditional American white man Trump placed high hopes on, deceived him the most. The other two leaders have real wealth, while OpenAI's funds largely depend on investments from giants like Microsoft. In reality, this 20-minute dialogue among so-called U.S. elites was essentially CEOs of major tech companies taking turns flattering Trump to satisfy his vanity. However, at the end of the press conference, a critical piece of information emerged. Trump plans to impose tariffs on chips not produced in the U.S., with a significant rate. This has profound implications for the chip industry, AI industry, and the China-U.S. technology war, marking it as Trump's most significant decision since taking office, far surpassing the already stalled global tariff war. The global tariff war spared China from facing the U.S. and its Western allies alone, allowing U.S. allies and other nations to remain neutral, significantly easing China's crisis and pressure. In a one-on-one economic war, the U.S. faces great difficulty winning, with almost no chance of success. Yet this impact pales compared to his next decision, forcing chip manufacturing to return to the U.S. In a sense, this is the Pearl Harbor of the China-U.S. technology war, except this time, Americans bombed themselves. At the press conference's conclusion, a reporter asked how the U.S. would confront the rapid AI advancements of so-called evil Axis nations, China, Russia, and North Korea. Trump confidently claimed the U.S. is far ahead, unchallenged by others. Other nations may imitate, but cannot match the U.S. in creativity, as the world's smartest talents sat at his dinner table, seemingly the pinnacle of human intelligence. Is this true? Even U.S. media surveys show China's basic education quality far surpasses that of the U.S. and Western nations. China holds over half of the world's chip and AI talent. The U.S. once maintained a quality edge in top talent, but with rising McCarthyism domestically, many top scientists are returning to China. In the China-U.S. technology war, the U.S. leads only in a few areas like chips and AI, the last strongholds of U.S. technology. If these strongholds fall, the U.S. will lose technological dominance. In other fields, such as electric vehicles, robots, drones, automated factories, and logistics, the U.S. has been thoroughly defeated, lagging far behind China. In the competition for large-scale AI models, the U.S.'s slight edge stems from its chip manufacturing advantage. Thus, chips are the Stalingrad of the China-U.S. technology war. Whoever wins this battle will dominate future technological supremacy. Where does the U.S. chip industry's advantage come from? Overall, the U.S. leads in chip design tools like EDA and logic IC design capabilities, with leading companies like NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel. However, this advantage is no longer unattainable for Chinese chip design firms like Huawei's HiSilicon. Even NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, a cornerstone of the AI ecosystem, responds cautiously to Huawei's challenge, repeatedly stating publicly that the US is not far ahead, with a small gap from China. Beyond the ecosystem advantage built by NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel, the US's most critical edge lies in chip fabrication processes. The US can freely utilize advanced processes from TSMC and Samsung, while Chinese firms are stuck between 7 nanometers and 5 nanometers. The situation is now simpler. The US relies on TSMC's advanced processes, with Samsung increasingly marginalized. Chinese firms like SMIC and Huawei are limited to 5 nanometers processes. Through techniques like multiple exposures, China has produced equivalents to TSMC's early 5 nanometers chips using DUV, but at high costs. China can mass-produce 7 nanometers chips. Although Huawei and SMIC, through advanced packaging, stack more transistors to boost overall performance, US firms can also use advanced packaging to widen the gap. This is the most critical firewall for US firms to maintain computing power superiority over China in the coming years. If this firewall collapses, the US's technological advantage will gradually unravel. At the heart of this technology war, TSMC is crucial. Its most advanced production capacity is on Taiwan Island, with its core engineers and critical technical secrets kept on this island, just 110 kilometers from mainland China. China's military has reached a level where it can compete fairly with the US military, and its nuclear capabilities can destroy the US. More importantly, China holds the legal high ground on the Taiwan issue, with most nations recognizing Taiwan as part of China. Within Taiwan, independence-leaning parties have performed poorly in past governance, becoming a minority in recent election efforts. Losing Taiwan, militarily and politically, is inevitable. Thus, Trump's push to bring chip manufacturing back to the US mainland targets TSMC, not South Korean firms like Samsung or SK Hynix, or Japanese firms. As US president, Trump knows China's strength. The US cannot wage war with China over Taiwan, and Taiwan's current political climate shows most people are unwilling to fight for independence. The US has a narrowing time window to secure TSMC's advanced processes, and Trump is willing to use any means, with tariffs as an appetizer. The US does not worry about its assets in South Korea, Japan, or Europe, where it holds strong control. Bluntly, these are US colonies or protectorates. In the chip industry's long supply chain, the US controls core light source technology. Germany handles lenses. The Netherlands leads in lithography machine R&D. Japan manages photoresists and chemicals. And Samsung, SK Hynix, Rapidus, and TSMC handle manufacturing. Among them, TSMC's importance far exceeds others. Beyond tariffs, the US has other means to pressure TSMC. If TSMC does not move to the US, the US can cut off its technology supply, putting TSMC at risk of crisis or collapse. Thus, TSMC's move to the US is set, signaling the US's strategic abandonment of Taiwan, which will be used as a bargaining chip to pressure China. However, this decision's consequences are as foolish as the US's reckless trade and technology wars. Allowing China to stay within the US-led technology system meant that, despite the growth of tech giants like Huawei, DJI, and BYD, they relied on US technology supplies, posing no fatal threat. But cutting off China's technology supply, forcing its technological independence without crushing its tech industry, has created the crisis the US now faces, one that TSMC's move to the US cannot resolve. For TSMC, while it relies on technology supplies from the US and its allies, this is not its key to success. Samsung and Intel have the same supplies, yet why can't they compete with TSMC? The root lies in TSMC's reliance on Taiwan's local talent. Chinese people across the Taiwan Strait excel in math, physics, and chemistry, mastering technical disciplines, and willingly working diligently in technical roles. This is determined by Chinese ethnic character and cultural genes, seizing a historic opportunity in the chip and AI era. If TSMC moves to the US, it will lose Taiwan's natural talent advantage, quickly becoming another Intel. For the US, this would be another disaster. The decline of the U.S. chip manufacturing industry is not due to insufficient investment, but because local engineers lack quality, are lazy, lack discipline, cannot endure high-intensity work, and lack the determination to stay calm and solve technical problems over years. Trump's claim that the world's top talent is in the U.S. is laughable. With American math scores lagging China by over 5 years on average, is this the record of top talent? If TSMC moves to the US, will Americans suddenly become smarter or more diligent? More critically, mainland China is working to master EUV and exploring alternative chip manufacturing methods like nanomaterials. If successful, this will profoundly impact the global technology system. TSMC's focus should be on maintaining its industry leadership and keeping pace with technological trends, not relocating and wasting resources. If TSMC loses to mainland firms like Huawei and SMIC in this technological shift, what role can it play in the US? The US's constant robbery and extortion of allies will make them warier of the US. If possible, they would join China's technology system, which is affordable and reliable. Nobody opposes cost-effectiveness. Relying on US technology and markets means being robbed once you grow big, as Alstom's case shows. Instead, they could abandon competing for tech leadership and join China's technology supply system at lower costs, benefiting from China's focus on reducing prices and improving value. Lastly, I predicted the trajectory of the China-US technology war last year, including Stargate's failure, and these have been validated. I also predict that the China-US technology war may determine a winner during Trump's term. If the US does not adjust its policies, losing the technology war will take just a few years. Let us wait and see.